Using heartbeats as song bass, right theme song for the ICU. Intentionally competent. Providing intensive care for global mind. Tackling war propaganda, power to put global conflicts under the microscope. Exposing the system's lies and hidden hands that keep the war machine alive. From Gaza to Tehran, Washington to Tel Aviv, we dig into the facts, the headlines skip, the history they distort, and the human costs they bury. No political PR, no sanitized sound bites, just raw, verifiable truth, served with moral clarity and zero fear. In the ICU, we don't just treat the symptoms, we diagnose the disease. Hearing never ends, we reframe always while sending love to our nervous systems. Remember to always carry what serves you, release what doesn't, and keep walking with your ancestors at your back and your inner compass ahead is your guiding staff. With ICU, may you diagnose wisely, resist kindly, and reimagine boldly. ICU.
Welcome back to ICU. Not the intensive kind, though our nation and world are in dire need of intensive care. This ICU is a place where your inner consciousness is unraveled, and the intentionally competent you steps into the sacred work of seeing through empire's disguises. Here, we don't rant, we refrain. I'm still here, Dr. Epie, your disaster and crisis therapist to the national and global psyche, still seated, reluctantly, across from Uncle Donald and his hate. And now, across from a national and global psyche that baptizes venom as normal speech, that confuses cruelty for courage, that elevates loud mouths into prophets and turns words into weapons sharper than any stone. This, like I always tell you, has never been and will never be armchair therapy. This is triage for the spirit, because words are not harmless. They are scaffolds for empire. Today's episode is titled Sticks and Stones? Words weaponize nations. How empire manufactures hate through rhetoric and mouthpieces. So let's begin. Let's talk about the puppets, the pawns, and the propaganda getting spewed throughout our global psyche. All news outlets, you can't tune into any channel now without seeing them broadcasting the assassination of one such puppet. Personally, I refuse to dignify him and what he stood for by mentioning his name. Take that as you may. It means absolutely nothing to me. His mouth was not his own. It was empire's megaphone, and I doubt even he had the mental capacity to fully comprehend the fact that he was a pawn for empire, as is Uncle Donald, and we all know where his mental faculties are, and all his MAGA cult and Republicans in tow. I, like most people, would have never known this tool for empire, because what he sold, I would never have bought in any timeline of life. I stand for peace for all. And I know a lot of people on earth do that too. And we don't mourn because we're happy or we celebrate. I would never celebrate the killing of any human being. But in this instance, I neither mourn nor celebrate his death. Like I said before. Because what he sold was hate, and that's not my currency. He was unknown to most people like me until his death. And any attempts to guilt anyone feeling like I do into fake performance mourning is not only absurd, but outright ridiculous. Because there's one thing that does. All these do nothing but serve empire. They don't advance the national discourse. They don't promote welfare for anyone. And someone asked me recently why I felt like this. And here's why. He was an unapologetic agitator and used his words to promote hate and blatant discrimination to anyone within earshot. I also feel this way because in life, he and his fellow bedfellows glorified murder. And I'm not saying this to exaggerate. Here's a tiny sample of the hate he spewed into our global psyche. He mocked the deaths of children in Gaza. And don't even get me started when they talk about people of African descent. That's a subject for another day. He excused ethnic cleansing across Africa. He celebrated American school shootings by amplifying conspiracy. His currency was hatred, and hate is what he got. So I neither praise nor celebrate that. And if I go by his own words, and I'll quote, he said some deaths are acceptable to serve the greater need for the Second Amendment to be protected so it can protect the other God-given rights. So some deaths are acceptable to you. Wow. And that's the person they label a decent human being. Wow. I'm at a loss for words. I'm at a loss for words. So in keeping with his own words, here's what I'll say to you. His death by his own mouth is acceptable. Yeah. You see how it takes me, because those aren't the type of words that I'm accustomed to using, where to say somebody's death is acceptable. But those are his words. So how does such rhetoric radiate with any normal human being? I'm at a loss for words. And in his death, empire profits by seeking to sanitize his hate. Now the current narrative being pushed. Oh, he was a good man. Oh, let's think for his family. Give me a break. Companies are now firing people who point out his hate-filled words to express how they feel. And the latest victim, Jimmy Kimmel, just got canceled. I know there's ulterior motives to that. It always comes back to what? Money. But they use that tool. They use that now as leverage. So it just baffles me. His freedom of speech was protected, right? He could say whatever he wanted, whatever pulpit he wanted. But his critics' freedom of speech is not protected, right? And you have the president of the United States actually singing the praise of ABC for firing or canceling Jimmy Kimmel's show. And the words that Jimmy Kimmel used aren't even words that are hateful words. He just spoke the truth. He has said some more outlandish things than that before. But Empire's tool was assassinated. And now Empire is leveraging that to be able to get to whatever end objective that they desire. We even have priests and supposed men of God comparing his death to that of Jesus Christ. What? It's okay. I'm not even, dumbfounded, because Empire is at work. And his words would never be let to stand alone, because they, on their own, will show the world truly who he is, or truly who he was. A hate monger. I want you to know this and just infuse it into your nervous system, right? Like I stated before, I will never celebrate another human death. Also, his assassin is no revolutionary. He's only another pawn for empire. Because by pulling that trigger, he elevated this empire puppet into martyrdom. His blood has now become empire's new currency. Watch. See what's happening. The evidence is clear. So what happened immediately following his assassination? What? The President of the United States, Uncle Donald, the loudest mouthpiece for empire and the big hate monger and agitator, stepped up to a podium, labeling the assassinated puppet a martyr of free speech. Wow, really? Martyr? The hate monger? My. What irony. Oh, now we even have flags flying at half staff for this person, an unelected individual. No such honor was given for the assassination of the Hartmans in Minnesota and many others. The hate for what they stood for was extended to their dog even. Their dog was also murdered. And I use that word to drive across this point where hate is so deeply embedded in certain group of individuals that they would kill even animals because those animals are associated to people who disagree with them. Even their dog. How did our psyche get so warped? What is it about us that makes empires work so easy? When others are hurt or threatened, it draws celebration from empire's puppets. Like Don Jr. laughed online, celebrating violence against progressives, and even mocking survivors like Mr. Pelosi. To them, anyone not standing with empire is dispensable. And across the ocean, the ethnic cleansing Netanyahu mourned the assassination of empire's puppet. So he is mourning this puppet's death, even as his own hands dripped with the blood of Gazan children and women. He continues to advance the murder of innocents in the hundreds of thousands. This is how empire works. To empire, both the mouthpiece and the would-be killer are all conscripted into its script. So I call on you, truth seekers, never allow yourself to be guilted into compliance. They can spew all the hate in the world. Stand true and criticize them for their hate. Because even though when you criticize, guess what's going to happen? You'll get labeled as radical. That is laughable. These fragile egos may even advocate for you to lose your job. But don't fear. Justice favors truth. Stand on your truth and never fear the threats of empire. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Do you remember that lie? That's a lie. Do you remember it? Because as kids, this dangerous lie is being told to all of children. And it's so dangerous because we're told as kids, given our limited scope of reasoning at that point. Whoever came up with this? But why, at this day and age, do we still accept that as a higher reasoning people? Because now we all know words build scaffolds for hate. It was words that made Sandy Hook's murdered children into conspiracies for profit. Do you remember that? Those kids who were slaughtered at Sandy Hook. It was words that emboldened the shooter in Charleston's church pews. Do you remember that? It was words that gave cover for the Buffalo massacre, for El Paso, for the synagogue shootings. It was words that justified deportations and framed ethnic cleansing as border enforcement. Those are just the tiniest slivets of samples of what empire does. Because empire knows this. That's why it invests billions in rhetoric, not just weapons. Empire has a global script. Empire is not bound by borders. Empire is a multilingual entity, multilingual in hate, multilingual in bigotry, multilingual in assassinations and murders, multilingual in killings across the globe. In Gaza, civilians are called human shields. In Africa, exploitation is renamed stability and aid. In Europe, immigrants are recast as invaders. In America, Black, brown, native, and immigrant communities are branded illegals or thugs, a license for law enforcement to terrorize them. Across the world, rhetoric is not random. It is coordinated. It is funded. It's empire's most cost-effective weapon. How did we get here? So let's examine the global psyche and its numbing. We learn every day. And what I'm learning is how empire sanitizes lived atrocities to achieve its end goal. Empire is working overtime to paint the assassinated puppet in Utah in a light completely contrary to the life he lived. None of us are saints. I mean, we all know that. But simple human decency mandates that we treat everyone with respect and don't promote hate and bigotry. I mean, like I've said several times, I do not grieve this empire's puppet's assassination. What I grieve is the psyche that tolerates or even celebrates his rhetoric of hate and now wants to sanitize it to benefit empire. I grieve the psyche that compares his death to that of Jesus the Christ. I grieve the psyche that scrolled past Sandy Hook and even celebrated murdering children. I grieve the psyche that shrugged at Charleston and even assigned good to its perpetrators. I grieve the psyche that forgot Buffalo and wants it erased from the history books. I grieve the psyche that rationalized Gaza and justifies the murdering of innocent souls. I grieve the psyche that called deportations necessary and terrorizes those seeking a better life. I will stand by those words for life. When murdered children could be mocked and their families ridiculed, just told me something vital is broken in us. Something vital it's broken in our nervous systems. Because now we accept hate as background noise. I want you to know this fact. Empire thrives when cruelty becomes wallpaper. Let's not allow it. Let's not allow it. Because remember, you are in ICU. And this week's practice is the reclaiming of language. Like I said, this week's ICU practice, let's reclaim those words. Because empire wants the dictionary of power. So here's what we do. We name the lies, write down phrases you've heard. Law and order, martyr, illegal invader. See them for what they are: propaganda. Flip the script. Replace empire's words with truth. Family, neighbor, child, human. Speak them aloud and never be scared into feigned compliance. Interrupt the mouthpieces, because there's a ton of them out there. When you hear hate disguised as humor, don't let it pass. A pause, a question, or a truth-telling sentence can break that loop. Bless your own inner voice. Each morning, declare unequivocally, my words heal. I will not let them harm anyone. My speech resists empire. My truth builds, it doesn't destroy. So in closing, yesterday's ICU diagnosis: words are not harmless. They are empire's anesthesia, numbing us into atrocity while deliberately scripting our consent. And the prognosis? Unless we reclaim language, we will remain patients on empire's operating table, dissected, divided, and discarded. Let's not let that happen. So I leave you with this question: what needs to happen for us to reclaim ourselves from the spell of empire? Thank you for joining me for this special episode in ICU. Remember, we don't rant, we reframe. Remain grounded in truth and never fear the threats of empire. Until next time, carry what serves you, release what doesn't, but keep walking forward with your ancestors at your back and your inner compass ahead as your guiding staff. May you diagnose wisely, resist kindly, and reimagine boldly. Thank you for engaging with us, liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel. I appreciate you and ask that you remember to breathe, while never forgetting to keep sending love to your nervous system. I see you.
Using heartbeats as song bass, write theme song for the ICU. Intentionally competent. Providing intensive care for global mind. Tackling war propaganda, power to put global conflicts under the microscope. Exposing the system's lies and hidden hands that keep the war machine alive. From Gaza to Tehran, Washington to Tel Aviv, we dig into the facts, the headlines skip, the history they distort, and the human costs they bury. No political PR, no sanitized sound bites, just raw, verifiable truth, served with moral clarity and zero fear. In the ICU, we don't just treat the symptoms, we diagnose the disease. Hearing never ends, we reframe always while sending love to our nervous systems. Remember to always carry what serves you, release what doesn't, and keep walking with your ancestors at your back and your inner compass ahead is your guiding staff. With ICU, may you diagnose wisely, resist kindly, and reimagine boldly. I see you. You not believe, want you know that I do, I want you know that we feel, don't just chew the field, the something we do. And no political bearing, no sanitized sound bites, just raw verifiable truth served with moral clarity, zero fear. In the ICU, we don't just treat the symptoms, we diagnose the disease. Here we never rest, we reframe always while sending love to our nervous systems. Remember to always carry what serves you, release what doesn't, and keep walking with your ancestors at your back and your inner compass ahead is your guiding staff. With ICU, diagnose wisely, resist kindly, and reimagine boldly. I see you, you. We never ICU, we don't just treat the symptoms, we diagnose the disease. Here we never end, we reframe, always while sending love to our nervous systems. Remember to always carry what serves you, release what doesn't, and keep walking with your ancestors at your back and your inner compass ahead as your guiding staff. With ICU, may you diagnose wisely, resist kindly, and reimagine boldly. I see you.